Colonel Sodhi, we just heard from my colleague, of course, about the number of students who have returned and many more who are expecting to come back to India today. But at the same time, another humanitarian corridor which has been promised by Russia is going to operate, according to Russia, at least any time soon. We have seen in the last 2 days that all the promises of humanitarian corridor really could not be fulfilled. This time around, are you hopeful that with the UN intervention, with the pressure which India and all other countries have been putting on Russia and Ukraine both, at least for some time, both sides will adhere to ceasefire and let those innocent civilians who have nothing to do with war pass through the Ukrainian borders to Russia or to the neighboring countries, finally to be repatriated back to their homeland?
Well, Meenakshi, in these trying times, two things work the most. I can speak out of my personal experiences. One is hope and one is prayers. One really hopes, that this corridor does come through. But, having said that, I'm a little skeptical of the Ukrainian government because, the war is in a decisive phase and they purposefully are not allowing all civilians, including Indians, to come out of these towns. So because they know that once these civilians are out, then the Russian army will pound them with great ferocity. But having said that, I personally do not approve of this Ukrainian government doing this because this is something no professional army will do. We all professional armies are trained to fight another professional army, but we never, I've been in the Indian Army for 21 years as an officer. We have never ever taken a civilian as a hostage because that is not part of whether the military teaching or whether it is part of humanity. I think it is very sad that the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian army is doing this. I really hope and pray that this UN resolution does have some effect on the Ukrainian government and they allow the standard civilians to come out of these war zones. But it's really tough, knowing whether it will be successful because, like I told you, the past history of the Ukraine in such things has not been very, very encouraging. Though Russia is now, on its front foot and making humanitarian corridors and suggesting this because it suits Russia both ways. One, of course, that the civilians' life will be saved in this ongoing war. And secondly, since the war is in a decisive stage, Russia does not want any civilian to lose his life or get maimed. But I think, all said and done, the Ukrainian government for once should listen to the United Nations and open the humanitarian corridors, what Russia suggested. Let all the civilians leave. Let the two warring nations fight. Let the two armed forces fight if they want to continue fighting. But why, make a civilian lose his life or his limb for no fault of his?
Well, absolutely, sir. No civilian should lose life for no fault of theirs. And far as India is concerned, we are doing all we can to bring back our own at the earliest. Major Mohommed Shah, very difficult and trying time for the students as well. We had just highlighted, how a student has picked up arm. Of course, that's just a one-off incident. But many others who are stuck there in Sumi in difficult areas, I am sure, being civilians, this is such an uncertain time. It's a cliffhanger, very unfortunately for the students. One day they think they're going to be evacuated and in a few hours the news comes that the humanitarian corridor, the talks which were happening have completely collapsed. At this point of time, what should the students do? How should they maintain their sanity? How do they, ensure their safety, security? How do they ensure that, their survival instincts really overtake all their fears, because all they have at this point, till they are stuck there in Sumi, till they reach the borders, is just their own courage.
I'm so happy you asked me this question, Meenakshi. I would like to answer this question with the help of a small poem which Colonel Sodhi would have read that when he was in NDA. It's placed at the National Defence Academy, a place where I was rejected from. I could not get through there as well. So Rudyard Kipling says, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think but not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, or bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with one-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and snoo to serve your turn long after they're gone. And so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So I think these children, my younger brothers and sisters, you all must hold on and trust you me, everything will be fine. This too shall pass. Indian government will get you out very soon. And please, for heaven's sake, please, I fold my hands and I request you all, please don't get influenced or get taken away by anything. I know you are under pressure. I know your psyche right now, but please, you will be back home. Trust me. Your elder brother's telling you, you will be fine. Here I'm communicating with you all, the ones over here who are watching us. You all will be fine.
Well, absolutely. And we do hope that, all the students who are stuck there in Sumy, in the war-torn Ukraine, come back home at the earliest. But Colonel Sodhi, earlier we were speaking about the role of the UN. Today, of course, after India has time and again spoken out in the UN, it was only yesterday that T.S. Tirumurti, India's representative at the UN, spoke once again about the urgent and immediate need for the humanitarian corridor to be provided, that the UN also has now in very strong words asked Ukraine and Russia both to ensure that today the humanitarian corridor, which has been announced by Russia, actually goes through. It does not collapse. It is the duty really of both these nations, which are at loggerheads with each other, to ensure that civilians are not caught in the crossfire. Help us understand, do you see any hope, considering that the UN also has spoken out in strong words, and do you see that these words of UN are going to have any impact on both the warring nations, if we speak of Ukraine and Russia both?
Well, Meenakshi, I'm a very positive and an optimistic person, and I really hope that the words of UN have some effect on Ukraine, and Ukraine agrees to, open the humanitarian corridors which Russia has suggested. Having said that, though I'm very positive and I hope it happens, but Ukraine will not listen much to United Nations as it will listen to USA, because Ukraine is being fed with certain amount of, assurances by the America and NATO allies that you just hold on, don't worry, it is a matter of few days and Russian forces will withdraw, they'll go back. So Ukraine is doing every possible step it can to ensure that the war lingers on, because it has that kind of a tacit support by America and NATO. Well, in this situation, when so many people have died, so many have been maimed, so much destruction has taken place, at the end of it, it is not worth it. It is simply not worth it. Why should anyone, be it an armed forces personnel or a civilian, lose his life? A life is the most precious thing that God has given us. And I mean, with seeing so much death and destruction, I think even the most hardest of a man, even the most stoic of a person can melt. And I'm sure President Zelensky, who is, who's the leader of 4.41 crore Ukrainians, which is a very sizable population, should now rise to the occasion, not for any United Nations or USA, but for himself, but for the sake of humanity, and allow all these stranded people, including Indians, to leave these war zones. I mean, we have seen enough of death and destruction. It really pains when we see the visuals where people are struggling to get a bottle of water. Families are just running barefooted just to escape the shelling. It is really heartbreaking. I am really optimistic. I really hope that these words of United Nations have some effect on President Zelensky, because enough of damage has been done to humanity, to the country as such.
Major Mohommed Shah, throughout the broadcast, right from the beginning, we have been talking about how encouraging words really for those students who are stuck there till now in Ukraine. We just heard the student who has come back talk about the hardships which the students had to face. How do you see now the evacuation process going forward? As someone who understands these evacuation processes, who has been associated with the army, help us understand really what do you see next going forward in India's rescue and evacuation process?
India is leaving no stone unturned to get every single person back. और जहाँ पे वादे कामयाब नहीं होते, वहाँ पे कोशिशें कामयाब हो जाती हैं. So we are leaving no stone unturned, and trust me, as Sohanlal Dwivedi says, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. So we are trying our best. We have already evacuated so many people over here. You people are over here. Meenakshi, just permit me, I'm sorry, it's an English news channel, I know, but I would like to decide to connect with people who do not understand English or who are not so fluent in English, who are watching your channel also, by reciting a small poem, because this poem is definitely going to encourage people. लहरों से डर कर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की
क्या पूछ रहे हो?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. We have some disturbance, but now we can hear you. Please quickly finish your point.
एक नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, चढ़ती दीवारों से 100 बार फिसलती है। मन का विश्वास रगों में साहस बढ़ता है, चढ़कर गिरना, गिरकर चढ़ना ना करता है। मेहनत उसकी आखिर बेकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। डुबकियां सिंधु में गोताखोर लगाता है, जा जाकर खाली हाथ लौट आता है। मिलते नहीं सहजे मोती गहरे पानी में, बढ़ता दुगना उत्साह इसी हैरानी में। मुट्ठी उसकी खाली हर बार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। असफलता एक चुनौती है, उसे स्वीकार करो। क्या कमी रह गई देखो और सुधार करो। जब तक ना हो सफल नींद चैन को त्यागो तुम, संघर्ष का मैदान छोड़ मत भागो तुम। कुछ करे बिना ही जय जयकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। So you all would be successful in coming back, and trust you me, when you all come back, the friends you have made today, they would be your lifelong friends, they would be your best buddies, and everyone, and you are going to look back at this experience and you are richer in education. Education is different than literacy. Education is something which you learn through your experience, through your reading, through interacting with people, through your experience. So this is something, take it as an education. When you come back, this is a story you can tell your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren that there was a time in the year 2022, you were stuck in the crisis, in war, in a war-torn country, in war zone, and how the Indian government helped you to come out of it safe and sound. So trust you me, if you can see it happen, it will definitely happen.
Well, absolutely. And we do hope that these reassuring words which you just spoke, sir, do help some students.